Hey guys, it's good to see all of you again. It's a little bit late where I am, but no, I'm doing pretty well. Well, today's topic is it's going to get a little dark. Fair warning. Um, what if I told you guys that 85% of the porn industry in the 1990s was owned by organized crime? I'm sure you wouldn't believe it. It gets even crazier. The FBI did an investigation into the heads of these mafia groups and they tried to take them down. It came down to two extremely professional FBI agents who basically they launched some sort of campaign. They went undercover and they were able to get so much information that it could fill an entire bedroom. You're talking about, I don't know, warehouses full of information that incriminated so many powerful people. But here's where things take a weird turn for the worst. When the case went through, all of the top heads either were murdered or disappeared. And the main culprit, the leader of this entire ring, got off scot-free. Guys, this is the world of porn, and a lot of people don't really know how dark porn can really get. It's a very seedy type of business. Ever since the 1990s, ever since that case, the FBI case, porn has expanded as an industry. It's 3 to 5 times larger than it was in the 1990s. And its ties back to organized crime is still relatively unknown. For some reason, the FBI, the CIA, intelligence, they've all given up doing any probes into the porn industry. To make matters even weirder, now the only sort of investigations happening into where the money goes in the porn industry in the United States is basically for things like child porn. But it's kind of odd because the people who are running these underground, child rings still goes back to organized crime. And for those who don't even know, this sort of idea of organized crime running the porn industry is an international thing. It's not just something that happens in the United States. Allegedly, you can look this up, but it is said that the Yakuza, the Japanese Yakuza, Japanese mafia, they had ties to the porn industry super heavy. And at one point, the porn industry in Japan funded 1/3 of the organization's profits. These are the guys who are, doing organized hits on rival Yakuza gangs and all kinds of complicated things. Now, of course, I don't want to get too far into something that is incriminating, but I do have a link to the FBI case at the bottom of this video. So if you guys are interested in looking it up, then I suggest you click on the link and check it out. Additionally, here's something else that is kind of crazy. I got a little bit curious and I started kind of tracking a little bit of the money. And I found something interesting. All right, this is from a website called Defend Young Minds. And I think it's really interesting. Basically, it says here, you won't believe who profits from porn. And I'm going to put this link at the bottom of my video as well. But if you go down, it shows here are, a list of major companies who are earning huge amounts of money from the porn industry. Okay, so we have AT&T, Time Warner, Comcast, DirecTV, Hilton, Sheraton, Radisson, Visa, MasterCard, American Express. These are just a few. Okay. It says here, according to Dr. Donald L. Hilton, okay, a neurosurgeon who fights pornography, although AT&T makes millions selling porn each year, it's not something the company wants to draw attention to. So these organized crime groups, they have indirect ties to a lot of the world's, well, I would say the United States' biggest media enterprises. So I got curious and I said, how far does the rabbit hole really go? So I went and I did some snooping around and I found some numbers that show that a lot of the porn industry is donating money into election campaigns. Now, it is illegal for corporations to donate or give money directly to campaigns, but it's not illegal for an individual to do so. So after doing that, I have to be a little bit careful here because I don't want to be found floating in a swimming pool, but I'm not swimming. Wink, wink. So afterward, what I did is I went to ChatGPT to kind of confirm some of the numbers I found. So let's just have a look at that. I did some research and I was able to find and track some money going to some weird sources. But again, for the sake of my own safety, I'd rather just use ChatGPT. This is, I guess, publicly available data. So it says here, how much money did the porn industry make last year? ChatGPT says anywhere between 15 billion to 100 billion. So 100 billion is a tenth of $1 trillion. 100 billion is more than some small country's GDP. That's pretty insane for the porn industry. So I went to ChatGPT and I asked some interesting questions. Okay, I asked ChatGPT how much of the money that is made from porn every year go into political campaigns. Okay, and it came up with a list of some pretty reputable publicly available data, right? So donations to ballot initiatives. Okay, so we have MindGeek. MindGeek is the owner of Pornhub. They've contributed over $268,000 to defeat Los Angeles County Measure B, which is condoms in porn. And this is kind of insane because why don't they want their performers to wear condoms? There has been lots and lots of stories of people dying from not wearing protection, which is pretty scary, okay? Then we get into this idea, okay? Lobbying in Washington, D.C., okay? A porn industry trade group began formally lobbying Congress in September 2021. They pay $30,000 or $120,000 annually to Clarity Consulting, okay? And then we have digital political campaigns, 2024, 2025, okay? A recent campaign called Hands Off My Porn, which spent $100,000, okay? So all of these are basically more or less nothing burgers, because you're going to say like, oh, 100,000, 200,000. How does that doesn't really connect, these entities or organized crime to political campaigns. But again, one of the big things that the mafia was known for way back when was donating money to put certain people into position so that they had more leverage, certain political powerful people, right? And even if you watch the films like The Godfather, there's always these allusions to that, right? And that's why, again, I'm being very careful on choosing my words really carefully here. So if you scroll down here, okay, I'm not really getting any clear answers. So I typed another question. I said, how many porn industry bosses and leaders donate to campaigns privately and not through their porn companies, which is some data that I was able to stumble on. And it says here, Larry Flynn, Hustler founder and publisher. He offered a $1 million reward for Mitt Romney's tax returns, okay? But historically, he is a vigorous Democrat supporter, okay? And he supported candidates through public endorsements and issue-driven donations. Steve Hirsch, okay, he endorsed Hillary Clinton privately. And Joanna Angel, founder of Burning Angel, okay, endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2015 and praised Bernie Sanders, okay? So we're not seeing too much here. But then it says something at the end that's really interesting. It says many major porn industry leaders make private contributions, often through personal checks or PACs. not publicly tied to their companies. These are typically undisclosed and aggregated into general contributor data. Okay, so you don't know where their money is being put, but definitely there's lots of people making private contributions here. Okay, many major porn industry leaders. Okay, according to the Wrap, okay, Flint, Hirsch, Angel, and other wealthy pornographers were willing to donate large sums of money to candidates. Okay, this is insane. Now, why is this insane? Because if we go back, we are going to find out, and if you click on the link at the bottom of this video, you're going to see that, again, 85% of the porn industry in the 90s was owned by organized crime. And I'm sure, again, it's around the world. These people haven't been taken down, okay? They're still operating there somewhere. So to say that organized crime does not have a connection back to the porn industry now is far-fetched. If anything, they're probably even deeper rooted. And it's kind of scary and concerning that now we have some evidence that they are funding political campaigns in the White House. It tells you a lot about this industry as a whole. The reason why I'm bringing all of this up is because the porn industry itself is a very dark and sad, sick, vile industry. And it's filled with nothing but death. One of the things that's very shameful for a lot of men to admit, and even women, is how addicted they are to porn in the modern age. And I hope that this video is going to help you guys make a decision to just cut off porn completely, or at least reduce your intake of porn. We're going to go deep into porn, and we're going to talk about why porn is literally killing people and destroying people's lives. Let's rock. Alright guys, so one of the reasons why I started this topic was I stumbled upon just this kind of story where a lot of porn actresses and actors were dying, and I didn't realize how bad it was. I pulled up a Twitter, which I'd like to show you guys some information that is pretty shocking and startling. Okay, so this is from Joseph Macy on Twitter, and I also double-checked some of the things that he said, and he's spot on. The average lifespan of a porn performer is 36.2 years old. That is insane, and there's a lot of porn performers out there, many, and it's crazy that combined their lifespan is only 36. That means that, you know, these people are dying like this. Porn stars have a suicide rate 6 times higher than the general population. One killed herself last month at the age of 36. Okay, STDs and substance abuse are rampant throughout the entire industry, and none of the above is a coincidence. Porn is a death trap, a soulless farce that destroys lives and psychologically warps young and old people. I couldn't agree more. And after I saw these statistics, just today, okay, probably an hour ago, I just saw this. It says here, porn and Netflix star Kylie Paige's cause of death at 28 revealed, okay? And this woman is she was a super famous, well-known porn star. And, before I even read the article, I said, okay, gotta be drugs. Because it seems that the pattern of porn stars that die is always an alcohol overdose, drugs, or sometimes even murder or some sexual disease. But it's a really sad sort of situation. Alright, it says here, the actress who also starred in a Netflix miniseries, about the porn industry died at her Los Angeles county home from a suspected overdose. Okay, the 28-year-old Tulsa, Oklahoma native's body was discovered after police carried out a welfare check at her Hollywood residence following a call from a concerned friend. This is really sad, guys. And then I said, you know what? How many of these actresses are dying? So I went online and I just found that there are several websites that just list women who just died. All right, let's go. Okay, Jessie Jane, super famous woman, super famous. Accidental fentanyl and cocaine. Sophie Anderson, okay, overdose, drugs, okay. Raven Alexis, life-threatening infection, okay, and battle with Crohn's disease. And keep in mind, Pornhub tried to pay Congress so that porn stars don't have to wear condoms, okay? We don't know what the life-threatening infection was, but you know, this is, you know, their health. They don't, the people who are making billions of dollars from these women who are dying, they don't even care about their health. Let's go on, okay? Dakota Sky, okay, 27, dead by her husband, age 27, accidental after she was found to have taken drugs, okay? And it just goes on. This is a small list, but if you look around the world in the adult industry and the escort industry and the prostitution industry, you see a lot of death, and it's sad. It's really sad. And these are not like no names. These are not like nobodies. These are huge stars, people that were at one point making probably millions of dollars in these films. Why is this happening? Well, let's get into this, guys. You know, one of the reasons why I think this is occurring is because of the nature of porn. Now, if you are someone who watches porn regularly, I'm pretty sure your friends or your family probably doesn't know. The level of addiction to porn in the United States and probably around the world is insane. And a lot of people don't know how bad it really is. So I want to show you guys just some statistics so you guys can see just how bad porn addiction is right now, and how many people can't stop looking at porn in general. It's quite shocking. It kind of blew me away. But let's have a look. Alright guys, so this is pretty terrifying. 1 in 10 children have watched pornography by the time they are 9. 1 in 10 by the time they are 9, guys. And this is the Children's Commissioner for England finds a worrying amount. So this is from the UK, and this is kind of scary because, in my opinion, I don't blame the children in this case. The reason why a lot of people struggle with porn addiction is because they start fairly young, and it's almost as if it's like a kind of shame for them to tell anyone about it. But we really need to address this sort of problem because a lot of people start looking at porn at a super young age, and one of the top reasons is this. All right, dingy smartphones like mine. But you know, people have iPads and smartphones, and parents don't monitor what their kids are watching. And you know, in my opinion, when a child stumbles upon porn, they're a victim. You know, I can't, oh, you're 9, you're 8, you watched that, you're a bad person. I don't think so. They're a victim, and you know, it's not like they had a choice and they didn't know, or they knew. They're curious. Kids are curious. They stumble upon it, and once you see something like that, the psychological ramifications are very serious for you if you're a kid, right? Now let's look at some more statistics, guys. Alright, so this is another article I saw. This is from Common Sense Media. And this, I'm guessing this is the United States, but it says here 15% of teens surveyed. Okay, so this is teens they surveyed said they first saw pornography before the age 11, guys. Either by accident or on purpose. So just scrolling on Twitter, scrolling on Instagram, and it pops up, or on purpose. And you know, one of the issues I have with social media is that sex pops up way too much. Your child could just be scrolling through X, and then naked women just pop out of nowhere. And that has been a very big complaint for people who use both Instagram, X, and even other social media platforms. You know, if even like something like TikTok, you'll just scroll and then you'll see sexually suggestive material, and that's so bad because children have access to this. And it says here more than half of those teens said they had seen it by the age of 13. So 15% by 11, 50% by 13, which is insane, guys. And let's continue on. So all right, so this is Australia here, and in Australia, it says here that half of children between the ages of 9 and 16 experience regular exposure to sexual images, guys. That's insane. So this is not a one nation problem. This is a huge issue that is happening globally, and I find it so weird that, I don't know, it just feels like the media, international media, TV, film, it seems like not enough people are talking about this. Because if this is true, that half of our nation's children around the world have seen porn by the age of 13, this is an epidemic. This is a serious thing. No wonder so many young people are suffering from psychological issues. And I when I say that, I do not mean that in a discriminatory way. I mean that in as respectful as a way as I can. This material is brain rot. It destroys your humanity. By the way, guys, I am going to link all of these to the bottom of my video, so you guys can go and read these articles for yourselves. Okay. It goes on to say that young males are more likely than females to deliberately seek out pornography and do so. Pornography can shape sexual practices and is associated with unsafe sexual health practices such as not using a condom, unsafe anal and vaginal sex. And again, there are companies like MindGeek, the owner of Pornhub, that is actively paying the United States Congress to try to make sure that porn stars or porn actors don't have to use condoms. Again, this is all trickling down to our kids, and all that money going back to possibly organized crime organizations. This whole thing is it's like some kind of X-Files conspiracy, except instead of aliens we have organized criminal freaks. All right. Where's Mulder and Scully when you need them, huh? Let's go on, guys. We're going to drive this home with a video that I think is really important. This video is from a gentleman who talks about how he got into porn and how it really affected his life. And I think it's such a powerful video. So instead of me just talking on, I would rather you hear from his voice or hear from his mouth what happened to him. And also I want to share with you guys a story that affects me deeply right now to this day. So let's do it, guys.
Back in the early 80s, I went to California to to pursue acting. I actually did pretty well. I got a manager, an agent. First week I was there, I got a motion picture. I remember thinking to myself, what's the big deal? This isn't so hard. Well, then the writer's strike happened. Everything in Hollywood shut down. Certainly, actors, producers, directors, costume people, florists, caterers. Nobody was working. So everybody started to get hungry, including me. Well, I subsidized my income by doing modeling work. And one particular job, makeup artist handed me her card and she said, if you ever want to do any nude work, give this number a call and you can make some money. Well, I took it and I was grateful, thanked her, knowing full well that as soon as I did anything like that, it would ruin my career. Well, after about a month of starving, I decided that I was going to make that phone call. I had a can of beans and one can of potatoes in my cupboard, and I was hungry.
Damn. So much I want to say. We have this problem as people, which is we tend to dehumanize others. We look at someone who may have done porn or prostitution, drugs or whatever, and we say, you're a whore, you're an animal, you deserve what you get, you're a degenerate. And when they get murdered or they get killed or they die of a drug overdose, we tend to say, oh well. Sometimes out of desperation, people do things that they shouldn't do, and it's not good, but we should sometimes open our heart to sympathize to such people. I know people who made horrible mistakes, who I wouldn't say are necessarily bad people. They did something that was not good for sure, but a lot of times people who go into prostitution and porn, a lot of times it's out of desperation. It's because their son needs a life-saving operation. They were abused as a kid. They ran away. They got nowhere to go. They have money to pay. They have no family members to rely on. The list is long. The list is long. And, the rent is due. Bills are due. Hospital bills are due. Their father's on life support, and they need to find a way to make ends meet. And the story that this guy's telling you is a very common story that I've heard from people who had to do things that they didn't want to do, but they felt they had to do it in order to survive. Personally speaking, I do not like the exploiters, the people who take people who are in desperate situations, and a system where people who are in desperate situations cannot get help to make it to the next month. Now, I know that people are going to argue and say, well, look at you. You were in a desperate, look at me. You were in a desperate situation. You didn't have anything. You came up on your own. You didn't go into those things. I was very lucky because I had enough moral knowledge, ethical knowledge, and luck, lots of luck, where I made the right judgments at the right time. But not everybody can do that, and not everybody is in the circumstances when they're super young to have the wisdom to think of other ways to do that. not only that, but these guys who approach you, these guys who come at you, they come at you because they know you're desperate, right? It's like the drug game, right? I'm from Chicago. I don't know where you guys are from, but everybody who knows the drug game knows that, they're not going to come after me. They're going to come after they're going to go after young people, either at a party, at school. They're going to say, hey, why don't you try this? Or they might go after people who need camaraderie, who need something. They'll say, hey, take this. There these guys that try to find young people to go into these kind of industries, whether it's the drug business, buying drugs, selling your body. They're very smart, and they're monsters, and they know what the end result is going to be. Anyway, let's continue on, guys.
So I made the phone call. They said, be at this place at a certain time. So I jumped on my motorcycle the next morning, and I went. And I made my first porno.
I shake my head, not because I'm trying to look down on this man. I'm shaking my head because I can only imagine how he felt after doing that. It's like a woman who turns her first trick, or someone who does something that is so far outside of what they ever thought they could do, and they have to sit there and they have to deal with that. That's got to be extremely traumatizing. And then the downward spiral is, people often say, well, I've done that, so I might as well just, I've already lost a part of my soul, so I might as well just keep going even further because there's no going back. And that's sad, because if they had a friend or someone like me, I would say to them, hey, I don't look down on you. You did something out of desperation, and there is a way back. Sometimes your circle, having someone to just talk to you, sometimes they can put you back on that track, but a lot of people don't, and they go down. Well, let's see, let's continue on, guys. Yeah.
Walked out of there at the end of the day with 4 crisp, brand new $100 bills. I got on my motorcycle and I drove home. I was thinking how easy that was. But I also remember thinking, what have I done? Someday someone will find out. Well, little did I know that it would turn into this. I became the most popular, most decorated male adult film star of all time. The phone never stopped ringing. The money kept getting bigger and bigger. My mother had no idea. She was completely taken by storm. Shocked her.
Yeah, it's that slippery slope, There's something that I call pivotal moments, where a person goes into a crossroad spiritually and ethically, and if you can reach them at that pivotal moment, and you can say to them, hey, there's a way back from this. You're not meant to do this. You're meant for better things. You can save a life, and people are so cold and so uncaring. When they hear about a mistake you've made, the first thing they do is they say, well, you're a piece of garbage, you deserve it, go to hell, And so you're in that loneliness. You've already done something, and so now this guy, as he said, he got $400, and then Now he's the world's most decorated #1 porn star. And if you look at the funny thing is, if you look at all those pictures of him, he's smiling with his award, like you see a lot of the adult actresses. And when you see these people in interviews, it's like, how do you love the industry? Yeah, I love it. It's great. And I'm doing this, and they're smiling, they're taking photos. But look at this picture of his face right now. He's talking about his mom and how shocked he is. Nobody wants the person that they love or admire or look up to ever see them as anything less than. Less than. I can't even finish that sentence. Anything less than. And it's a devastating thing. Absolutely. And we tend to dehumanize porn stars, prostitutes, and so on, to the point where we think they're incapable of being human. They're the bad guys, we're the good guys. And I think that's totally wrong. I think that a lot of people in that industry got into that industry out of desperation, as I said before. But I also think that deep inside, a lot of people are crying for help. And it's very hard to get out of that. It's very hard. It's very, very hard. But let's continue.
Shocked her. Hurt her. I didn't know what love was. I didn't even know if I could feel love anymore. I looked at women like objects. There was no emotion involved in the act of making love. What was that, making love? I had sex for money. I was a prostitute. I couldn't feel anymore. See, for me, I had to go to work to do the porn so that I could buy the drugs to bury the pain of doing the porn. So I'd go to work and do the porn so that I could buy the drugs to bury the pain. And around it went.
Now, I get kind of emotional because, I came up from the street literally, and I knew a lot. I have a lot of stories that I don't wanna share, but there are people like this, and they're get stuck in that loop. And what I find very interesting about his story is the symbiosis. Am I saying that right? Symbiotic relationship between the porn user and the porn maker. The people who make porn, they're not like enjoying themselves, having a happy time, life is great. A lot of them, they're miserable, and they go deeper and deeper and deeper and darker, to the point where, as he said, they don't know how to love anymore. And by love, as in how to form a connection with the opposite sex that isn't something like some sort of like exchange, physical exchange, like you're an object, you're just something. You're not even a human anymore, you're a thing. And if you look at people who watch porn, men who watch porn a lot, what happens is they start to develop this mindset as the porn actors. I'm not going to name names, but I know plenty of gentlemen who start out with very normal porn, and then that doesn't stimulate them, so it goes darker and darker and darker, and that has a psychological effect on them, because it is not normal for you as a man to go outside and to see a hot girl and say, oh, I want a boner, or I wonder what she looks like naked, or I would like to sleep with this woman. or whatever, that's not normal, and we think it is, but it isn't. When I go outside, if I see a beautiful woman, I'll just think, oh, she looks very nice. She's, I can admire her beauty, but these guys, they take this sort of psychological trauma that porn gives young men into their relationship with their wives and their girlfriends. They want their girlfriends to emulate what they see on porn, and they want their wives to. And it creates this very perverse, dark sort of persona in a lot of people. It also, I also think it affects women too, because you see a lot of women who also watch porn, who also, change their bodies, and you see people increasing their body count. There is something almost sociopathic or psychopathic about having a high body count. And now so many young people have slept with so many people. It's weird. You start to detach from human beings. And that is a terrible thing. And you can see from this guy's desperation, as he is one of the richest, most famous porn stars, the most famous porn star in the United States, and he's being tortured. He's being tortured. I know there's going to be people who are going to say, if you don't like it, why don't you just walk away? It's not that hard. It's not that easy. It's not that easy, because your reputation is you're doing porn. If you did porn, can you be a school teacher? Not really. Can you get into certain industries? It's very hard. You have this stigma that follows you around. It's very hard to find a normal relationship, and it's very hard. It can really ruin your life, and it doesn't take a lot of videos. You do one porn film, and it's like, well, hey, my reputation's already there. I might as well just keep going, and then. As we saw before, the average life expectancy of a porn star is 36 years old.
What pornography did to me was it changed how I thought and felt about women. I began to look at them even more so as a sexual object. I lost the ability to have a loving and caring relationship. I thought I was still able, and I was fooled. One day, I left the set. I was done for the day, got in my car, started it up, drove 2 blocks, pulled over and turned it off. And I started to cry. I wanted out so bad. I wanted to get off that merry-go-round. It's the last movie I ever made. And I never went back. And I changed my life. I began my life. You see, if I can change my heart, anybody can.
It says here, due to research over the past several years, we are finally starting to recognize the harmful effects of pornography on individuals and relationships and societies. And, I really have to give it up to this guy for just saying, you know what, I'm walking off this set and I'm going to try and live my life. That's very hard to do. And not a lot of people can make it, and I'm sure right now he's still going through the challenges, but at least he's able to do that. But, this is very interesting to me because you see a lot of young men who are addicted to porn, a lot of men who can't stop. And a lot of them want to. A lot of them are like, this is destroying my family. It's destroying my the way I see my girlfriend. It's destroying how I feel about myself. And I've met so many guys who've said to me, I try to stop looking at porn, but I can't. It's invading my life. And some of these guys, they go too full deep in, and they start doing perverse things, getting escorts, getting prostitutes, sleeping around. And there comes a day where they might say, you know what, I want to be a loyal husband, I want to be a good dad, I don't want my family to be messed up because I can't control my sexual issues. Same for women as well. But because they've been in this loop, right? They don't understand that they need to really unpack a lot of things psychologically, and they have to learn how to deconstruct this sort of horrible entity that's been put here, and to rebuild themselves into an individual that can walk away and stay away from this kind of content. I showed this. Thank you guys for watching this video, but I showed this video to you guys because I want you guys to just see that the porn industry all around is just an evil entity. The people who are making the money are organized criminals. They are funding very famous entertainment entities. These guys indirectly are funding Congress and putting money into probably governments around the world. I won't say more. And all of this is just destroying children who grow up to somehow, out of desperation, maybe get into this kind of business and deal with abuse. It's really sad. It's really sad. And I have a story that I want to share with you guys. I don't even know if I can tell it because it's really sad. But it is a story that I should tell. When I was on the come up, trying to improve my life, I was super young at the time, and I got a job at a bar. And I don't want to say where I got the job and what's the name of the bar, whatever, but the bar itself, it was kind of a special place where there was like escorts. Like, so basically the this bar, they would hire escort girls for certain VIPs. So if a powerful guy came through, a big guy came through, they'd have girls kind of waiting for them. I'm not sure how often this happens in other big clubs or bars. So it was basically a club, so to speak. Club, bar club, whatever. I was cool with everybody there, and my shift was pretty late. I started at around 9, and then I stayed until early morning, around 3 a.m. And there was a girl that used to work there. She was one of the girls who would meet the VIP guys, and she would drink with them, and sometimes these girls would even go home with some of the VIP, these big guys. And I got along with everyone, and even for those girls, I never hit on them. We didn't have any sort of like relationship other than just coworkers, and they all liked me because I always treated them as human beings. I joked around with them, and we had a good time. But that the job that they did was their job, and I don't know why at the time my brain was like, oh, they're prostitutes. Like, I wasn't really thinking about that. I was just thinking, hey, they're doing their job, and there's probably some circumstances in their life that put them in that situation. Who am I to judge? Because I was on the street years ago, so I was just hustling, a super young guy. I remember one of the girls who, you know, I was kind of cool with. You know, we had kind of a nice, like, working relationship, but we talked every once in a while. I don't know what happened. I think she either she A, took something, or she drank something. I think it was a combination of both. Had to be some kind of drug, because she fell on the floor and, like, she started convulsing. I saw blood come out of her nose. I saw some white, like, foam coming out of her mouth, and I saw her shaking and convulsing on the floor. And I was panicking, because I was like, oh my God, I'd never seen anything like that before. Well, you know, what's happening to this girl who I was just, you know, we were chilling earlier in the day, you know, before at the start of my shift. And, you know, yeah, the manager at the time, he came up to me and he was like, hey, you know, I don't want this girl dying in my establishment. I don't want whatever she did, whatever happening, I don't want that anything to do with this place. So I remember he asked two guys, two of the security or whoever the guys were, to grab her, and they didn't even pick her up like a human. They just grabbed her by her arms and legs, and I remember they took her out the back and they threw her in the alley, and that was it. And I remember someone called the cop. I went outside, you know, and they just that was it, just like she was nothing. I went outside with my friend. I said to her, hold on, keep, you know, I was talking to her, trying to do whatever I can to help her. She was completely gone. And a friend of mine, he was helping me as well. And you know, he called the cops as well. When the ambulance or whatever came, she became really still, and yeah, you know, they put her in the ambulance, and you know, she didn't deserve what happened to her. You know, she didn't deserve it. You know, that was, you know, they treated her like an animal. You know, they treated her like an animal. And that was a shame. Yeah, that was a shame. You know, you know, a lot of women and men who go into the porn industry, a lot of times they're doing escorting, prostitution on the side. A lot of women who go into prostitution, they're doing things with men they don't like. That's a terrifying job if you think about it. You could go on to sleep with someone for money. This person can have HIV. They could be a serial killer. You could be human trafficked. Someone could put a drug in your drink. Anything can happen to you at any time. It's not a glamorous thing. It's a sad thing. And for some reason in my life, I've been very blessed to be able to not look down on anyone. And if you're a businessman and you're clean cut, you come from a clean cut background, you've got good values and you're a high roller, whatever. Like, I can get along with those people fine. You know, I've been in the corporate world, I've been in the education world, I've been in various industries, investment industries, fine. But I also feel thankful that I also went through a hard time where I was able to live around people that were at the bottom, who went through hell and had to go through hell, because what it did was it allowed me to understand people's nature as a whole, and it gave me an overwhelming sense of compassion and empathy for everyone. she didn't deserve to be treated like an animal, because she grew up in a certain amount of circumstances that were so bad that it led to her being an escort and being a prostitute and having to service these jerks every night. And so because of that, she deserves to die in an alleyway. It's time, I think that it's very easy for us over time to desensitize ourselves to the suffering of others. And one of the best things we can do as people is to change ourselves if we really want to change society for the better. And the best way to do that is to not give power to people who exploit others and create these sort of environments where young people are manipulated and eventually pulled into these sort of terrible things. And it happens on both ways. It happens for people who are lured into these terrible lifestyles and people who feed off of them. You know, every time you watch porn, you are helping organized crime. Every time you go on Pornhub or you're looking at porn, you're giving money to people who are going to pretty much kill other people. You know, this industry kills porn stars. Pornography industry kills these women, and they treat them like they're nothing, treat their bodies like they're nothing, give them drugs, give them everything. And when they OD and they die, oh well, there's a next one. Don't be a part of the problem. We all have to be a part of the solution. And I also don't want to look down on people who are addicted to porn, people who watch porn every night and every day, because a lot of times they are suffering as well. There's one last video I want to show you guys, and I'm going to wrap up. And this video is basically what happens when you look at porn. What are the effects of porn? And if you're not convinced to stop watching porn because of what it literally does to the actors and actresses, which is pretty much destroy them physically, emotionally, spiritually, and in many ways kill them, at least protect yourself, because the effects of porn on your brain is awful. And it can turn you into a soulless husk of who you once were. And I know people might laugh hearing me say that, but you know, there are so many people who I know personally who have been affected negatively by watching this kind of content. But if you don't believe me, let's hear from the experts. Let's go.
The brain is a fascinating machine, really.
In terms of brain plasticity, everything that we do each and every day shapes our brain.
We call it neuroplastic. Just as plastic is changeable and malleable, we can change the shape of the brain.
And I actually did a study recently on this. So we put people in the scanner and we looked at their brain structure and associated this brain structure with the amount of pornography they consume. So basically we found in our study that the gray matter in the reward center is generally smaller in those people who watch more porn.
We've seen that with multiple addictions, from methamphetamine to cocaine, others, and now with pornography addiction. It's almost as if the brain is saying, I like pleasure, but you're killing me. This is too much.
My hypothesis was that the ventral striatum and the reward regions should be bigger in those people watching pornography. And it's exactly the other way around. So
this is kind of terrifying. So these are neuroscientists. So if everything I've said in this entire video, you're just saying, oh, it's hogwash. These are legit, proper, extraordinarily intelligent people saying to you that by watching porn, your brain is literally telling you you're killing me.
So,
were you shocked?
Yes.
There is solid research to show that brain functioning changes. The more you watch pornography, then you can get a blip up when the pornography is totally new. But totally new soon becomes old as you watch that.
People need to watch more or get more interesting and novel stuff to get the same level of activity in the reward system.
You know, so it's a paradox. When it starts out, the porn is turning you on, and the more porn you watch, the less likely you are to get aroused.
Which seems to indicate that the normal, regular thing you were used to isn't sufficient anymore.
The wonderful thing about the human mind is the power of curiosity to invent, to create. But what pornography does is it puts a straitjacket on our mind to say, no, this is the only thing I'm interested in, and then ultimately that any kind of compulsion is destructive.
I mean, guys, we're going to finish up our video here. I think I'm going to leave it with the neuroscientists here. If you don't get anything out of this video, the one thing I hope you can get is that I care about you. And I made this video specifically to show that I care. The word that they used is compulsion. That's exactly correct. Once you go down a certain rabbit hole, you need more to satisfy yourself. It's the same as any drug, cocaine, heroin. You need to get more to get that same fix. And some people, they go so far deep and down into the darkness that they pull out and become something they can never imagine.